Well, hello, everyone. Really delighted you could all be here. It's really great to be here at George Brown College with so many young people. I have 3 of my own at home, so I'm missing that vibe of being with young people regularly. And I'm here, I hope, to restore some hope. What I'm going to say is under the Doug Ford government, you've really been left behind. In fact, I'll go so far as to say that our young people are getting screwed. You know, the hope, the promise of home ownership is disappearing. You can't find a family doctor. You are saddled with student debt. You know, you can't afford your rent and your groceries. Some of you are still living with your parents because you can't afford to be out of your parents' home. In fact, you're missing life's milestones. And I will say that it's totally unacceptable. Doug Ford has failed our young people. Our unemployment rate for young people is 17%, and for me, that is unacceptable. We are losing a generation of kids who are getting left behind. In fact, I also know many of you have been told if you want to be successful, you have to leave the province. For me, that's unacceptable. So today, I want to offer you something tangible. I want to restore hope and jobs, and I want to smash the unemployment rate in half. Ontario's Liberals have a plan to smash our employment rate in half. We're also going to ensure that you have a family doctor, and we're also going to promise you that you won't be saddled with student loans and student debt. This government said it couldn't get done, but we know that it can, and we're going to bring back a measure of affordability, and we're going to ensure that you have access to jobs, real jobs, well-paying jobs. And I think that's the difference between our approach to dealing with a crisis that our young people are facing. Ontario Liberals will ensure that this generation of youth is not left behind and that jobs are created especially for you. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Amazing. So we will do one question, one follow-up, and if folks could state their name and outlet, that'd be fantastic as well. Mike's over here.
I'm conveniently located, so I'll go first. It's Charlie Pinkerton from the Trillium. Bonnie, I'm wondering what you do about the 10% tuition freeze that the PC's put in place. Would you continue that or end it?
Yeah. You know, what I know is that our young people are being left behind, and they're really struggling. You know, back in the day when I was a student, the formula for success was hard work and a great education. And then you too could become successful. But that's just not the ticket to success anymore. So would I change the tuition rate? No, because our young people are struggling. They can't make ends meet now. I want them to have access to a good education. So we're going to put measures in place to help them. You know, we are going to ensure they have access to OSAP, and then we're going to take the interest payment off OSAP. We're going to extend the amount of time that they have to repay it, and we're going to increase the income threshold to $50,000 for when it kicks in.
And when you were campaigning for leader, I believe that you promised that you would bring back the universal basic income pilot. Is that still in your plans that you would do if you're elected premier?
Yeah, Charlie, I said I wanted to take a look at the results, and I would have liked to have seen the results. Right now, we're going to double ODSP for people, and that will be our approach. And then, you know, it'll be phased in over 2 years, and then down the road, I can look at it again.
Bonnie, Barbara with QP Briefing. I just want to clarify something. So today we're promising to cap international student enrollment at 10% for each Ontario college and university. But we know that usually like Ontario colleges rely on international students at a much higher rate. So I'm just wondering why cap everyone at the same rate?
Yeah, so yes, we're committing today to capping international students to 10% of our colleges and universities. And I think that's really important. We've got to open up spaces for our own students, but also We have to fund our colleges and universities properly, because right now what's happening is they're relying on foreign students to pay the bills. And that is not a sustainable model. In fact, that's a Ponzi scheme. So, then we're also struggling with the foreign students that come in and can't find housing, don't have access to health care. It's just a cycle. So yes, we need more regulation, we need more oversight, and they need to be capped. About half the rate that they are in other provinces. Only about 30% of the operating revenue versus 60% in other provinces. So we are actually at the lowest rate in Canada of funding for our schools.
Thank you. On another topic, on the Greg Brady show, you were talking about the statue of John A. Macdonald that's in a
Yes.
box in front of QP. You're saying like we can't hide our problems in a box, something
That's
like
right.
that. So I'm wondering, if you were elected premier, are you planning to take off the box? Is that something you want to do?
Well, I think that's a question of leadership. I'm not sure why John A. Macdonald, our founding prime minister, is still in a box. I mean, certainly there were challenges, but that needs to be explained. I think it would be a matter of removing every statue that we have. There is controversy today, but right now, I'm feeling this wave of patriotism, especially what's happening when we're under threat of tariff wars and trade wars. I want to stand up and be proud to be Canadian and celebrate everything Canadian. Of course, there are flaws, but John A. Macdonald, our founding prime minister, should not be boxed up in front of Queen's Park. Please show some leadership and take John A. out of the box.
Hi, Bonnie. Lane Harrison from CBC Toronto. I'm curious about your rent control plans. Would that include, I guess, eliminating what people call vacancy decontrol, like landlords being able to raise the rent as much as they want when tenants move out between tenants, which I guess has been pointed out as a big flaw in the system we have right now?
Right. So, we've got a lot of plans for the Landlord and Tenant Board, and we will bring in phased-in rent controls. As the buildings age, it'll kick in. They won't apply to the newer buildings. But we're going to look at all aspects, because I know I've seen firsthand, I've experienced with people who have been demo evicted, reno evicted, and they need some protections. So certainly we'll do everything we can to protect those people. But at the same time, I've heard from landlords, and they need some protection as well.
And then on the PC leader, Doug Ford, being in Washington, D.C. today, I'm curious if, given the news we had yesterday about tariffs, if you view this trip as worthwhile at this moment. Is it legitimate for Ford to be in D.C. representing Ontario's interests at this moment?
And no, I think he's breaking the caretaker convention. I think he plays fast and loose with rules. Frankly, if he were a committed premier, he would be right here fighting the tariff war, right here, not fighting an election campaign and leaving in the middle of an election to go to Washington. There's not another premier in Washington right now at that table that would entertain holding an election and then leaving to go to Washington. We needed him at his desk, hard at work, not calling an early election, a snap election in the middle of winter that's costing us $189 million, that money we could be put in healthcare or education. It's a waste of money. And so we know he's not there in Washington to protect our jobs, because the only job he wants to protect is his own, as well as outrun that RCMP investigation that we know is coming.
Hi, Rihanna Lim, Canadian Press. Just for clarity on your announcement today, would you increase tuition fees or leave the freeze in place?
I am not planning to increase tuition fees. We are planning to create 40,000 jobs, paid jobs, co-op positions, apprenticeship positions, internship programs in our businesses by providing those businesses with a tax cut, a tax credit. So I'm very, very proud that we are going to cut the unemployment rate for our young people in half, right? And we're going to help incentivize our businesses to do that, because we're in a crisis situation with youth unemployment. And Doug Ford doesn't seem to care. He'd rather leave behind this generation of youth, and I have a plan to help solve it.
Colleges and universities are already funded by the province at a pretty low levels, so how much
Correct.
more money would you plan to give them in order to both stabilize them and make up for this 10% international student cap you're proposing?
That's exactly the point. We do have to stabilize them. We do have to provide them with adequate funding. We know that they're funded to half the rate that other colleges and universities in other provinces are. And it's inherently unfair, and hence we see this reliance on foreign students, which are, they have difficulty when they come here. They can't stay, they can't find housing, they can't get health care, etc. So we have to eliminate that burden. And so yes, we're going to cap foreign students at 10%, but we are going to fund our colleges and universities properly. Thank you.
Thanks. It's Chris Richoe from The Star. Just following up on Lane's question, given the news yesterday that the U.S. is going to impose tariffs, what do you make of Ford's efforts? I mean, have they been in vain on this front? Have the ads been worth it? All the time spent on it?
So, Chris, in my view, the Premier doesn't have a plan. He's spending hundreds of millions of dollars on an ad campaign in the United States. Has he built up the relationships he needs with governors in the United States? Can he name our top 17 trading partners, whether they're their first or second largest trading partner? What kind of relationships has he built? What's he done to incentivize investment into Ontario, to set us up for growth, to diversify our trading partners, diversify our economy here, not just put everything in the EV basket? What has he done to create jobs? We have the highest unemployment rate that we've had in a decade. Jobs are leaving this province. Manufacturing jobs and construction jobs, many jobs have left this province. He's not set us up. He hasn't done anything to break down the barriers for interprovincial trade so that we can trade with our other provinces right here in Canada, or built up relationships abroad, internationally. We've put all our eggs in the United States into one industry, and that's his response. So no, he has not been an effective leader on this. I haven't seen a plan other than to remove beer and alcohol and wine sales out of the LCBO. Premier, that's not a plan. That might be an aspect of the plan. I would support it as well, but where's the fulsome plan to address what's happening to protect our industries? Why haven't you been working for 7 years to insulate our economy, diversify sectors, bring in investment into Ontario? Investors don't want to come to Ontario. Do you want to know why? When they get here, their employees can't afford the housing. They don't have access to a family doctor or the hospital system. They'd rather go somewhere where life is more affordable for their, and they get a bigger return for themselves and their employees.
I also wanted to ask, under the previous Liberal government, there was a free tuition plan. I was just wondering if that's something that you had looked at or considered. I mean, it saves students costs up front as opposed to having to take on loans.
Yeah, from my understanding, there wasn't a big uptake in that program. I want to provide, means-based access to education. So we're increasing access to OSAP. We're eliminating the interest payment on it. We're increasing the threshold at which it has to be paid back. And we're also extending the amount of time it takes to repay it. So that is not the plan right now, Chris. No.
Okay, that now concludes our press conference. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all for coming.